They say they've changed, and maybe they have. They're taking accountability now. They're saying the words that you've longed to hear. They're showing up in ways that they haven't in a very long time. Part of you can see this, and yet, still, you can feel the emotional reluctance to let your guard down. You know you're watching what they say and do way too closely, and you're reading into every single word and tone and behavior. You're simply waiting for things to turn into the same old scary place you never want to visit again. Essentially waiting for the other shoe to drop. Your quiet thoughts underneath it, all of it, are asking, is what's happening real, or am I about to get hurt all over again? Here's the ache that nobody talks about. The only way to see whether they've truly changed is allow them to come close enough to show you. And letting them come close is exactly the thing that created your deep hurt in the first place. So you stand there, guarded, watching, waiting for proof, while the very thing that would give you the proof and comfort you need is also the thing you resist allowing yourself to open up to and feel. If that's where you are today, 1 foot in and 1 foot out, wanting to believe it, but afraid to believe it, I want you to hear me. You're not being difficult, you're not being dramatic, and you are definitely not broken. You're being human, and you're trying to protect a heart that has been hurt. That makes all the sense in the world. And it also creates emotional conflicts that are normal. Welcome to Love Shack Live, the podcast for anyone standing at a crossroads in their relationship, living with the daily friction, feeling the distance that's quietly creeping in, or carrying betrayal you're not sure you can come back from. This is the place where you have the honest conversations most people are too scared or don't know how to have. I'm Stacey Bartley, and I'm here with my lover and co-host Tom and our daughter Brooke. And today we're sitting with a big, honest question. And we're not going to rush you through it. When someone close to you is practicing genuine change, how do you allow them back in enough to reconnect? And how do you know when it's actually safe to risk trusting them again? I love the words of Esther Perel, where she says, cultivating trust requires millions of micro risks that shows us we're not foolish for being confident in our relationship. Think about that. Millions of tiny risks. Not one giant leap of faith, not a guarantee handed to you, signed, sealed, and delivered before you began. Small risk after small risk, each one shedding light on what is true for us now. I invite you to sit with that for a second, because it might just change the whole way you've been thinking about this. How do you let them back in enough to even see and, more importantly, experience the changes that have been made?
Hey, thank you for coming. Welcome to the Love Shack.
This comes from a listener question that was asked on one of our trust videos on social media. And the question exactly was this. When someone has genuinely changed and is taking responsibility now, how do you let them back in enough to even see it? And how do you know when it's actually safe enough to risk trusting them again? Profound.
Yes, it is.
And my mind flits back to many, many couples who were trying to overcome very challenging things. And each and every one of them would bump into this very same experience. Or shall we call it a wall or a resistance? I see it's happening. I witness it, but it's almost like the more they do it, the more panicked I feel. So the one promise is this. We're not going to answer, should you trust them? We're going to look at how trust actually works so you can find your own next steps. So let's begin there. What's trust? Where does it actually come from? Well, most of us think that trust is something that somebody gives you and it's earned by not making huge mistakes and messes. I used to think that about trust myself. As long as you don't fuck up and screw around, we're going to be fine.
I was thinking about this today before we were getting ready to record about how nebulous trust has always seemed, because it's the thing that people say, what do you need to have a healthy relationship? Communication and trust. Those are really the two things. But no one ever really talks about how do you get trust? And you only identify trust after it's broken. You don't really think about it until it's a problem.
Yep. 100%. And isn't it funny? It's like just trust and communication. Check. You're good to go. When you lift the hood, right? Or as they say in Europe, the bonnet.
Yeah.
And look at what we're talking about, trust and communication. right? You're talking about very, very, yes, important, but very skillful and nuanced places in the relationship.
I would say, if you ever had like this most incredible million piece thing that you have to put together and then you pull out the instruction, like, really?
And to have healthy communication and healthy trust, it requires so many underlying skills to support it. It's not just one thing. It's so many things that you have to kind of master to have them. And we don't talk about any of that, you know?
It's so true. It's kind of like, well, you need plumbing. Indoor plumbing makes life beautiful. Great. Have you ever tried to put plumbing in a house?
Yeah.
It's not just running water. I'm going to tell you that right now. Faucets and valves and couplings and fitters, and just a little plumbing project myself this morning is probably why that's coming up.
Just to bring the listener up to date on that, we still have a little drippage.
I would like to say the last time I visited them was 2023. They had the drippage. I just visited them again in 2026, still dripping.
So now we've taken a next step. This has been Stacy's project, and Stacy's
just to say, I think it's been fixed intermittently in there. I don't think it's been dripping for 3 years.
So, but yeah, we were told by a wonderful man at the hardware store, no, you need the tape, not a washer.
Here's the bottom line.
It's a washer.
Here, I'm going to tell you the problem. We have a shitty faucet.
Yeah, that's the real problem. Is the faucet is a piece of poop.
Yeah. Well, and how is that like what we're talking about, right? Let's just circle that back around. Okay, are we going to work with the faucet that we have, or are we going to get rid of it?
Are you going to keep repairing the same faucet, or are you going to move on and try something new? You know?
That's
exactly. Isn't it funny how those same questions are asked in our relational lives that, to be fair, are invisible. And so they're much more difficult to kind of like understand and see. So what is trust? Trust is something that, first of all, you give, and it doesn't come from being a well-behaved human. Because here's the deal.
That was the case, you'd never have trust.
You're a little snarky in my plumbing skills and otherwise. Is that what you're saying there, sir?
All right, moving on. Just a little segue.
This is important, though, because trust is not about being perfect. When I do the same things that you do as a human being, I understand why I'm doing it. I understand the intention behind it, and I understand sometimes the calculated choice or maybe the reactionary choice, but both make sense to me 100%. So even when it doesn't go well or lands well or turns into a mess, it's still not the same as having it be received as a disappointment, right? And some disappointments are very gut-wrenching, and some of them are like, I wish that wouldn't have happened, but okay, I can regather pretty quickly. It's really the disappointment that we're struggling with that is inevitable in relationships, because it's inevitable that if we're going to base this on the premise of having to do perfection and not be a human and not make mistakes or misjudge or miscalculate or forget or say something wrong or react or have an emotional outburst, we're asking a lot of ourselves and each other. And again, when I do it, I'm going to be asking for a hall pass because I understand every little single nuanced moment that led up to that. But when you do it, I'm going to see it very differently because it doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm going to think, how could you? How dare you? It causes me to question all kinds of things about us, about our relationship, about your thoughts of me, your care for me, your support of me, because I don't have all the intel that led up to that moment. And I use this metaphor often, but I think it's so spot on in regards to when we start talking about trust, about driving a car, because we're all going to cut somebody off at some point in time, because let's be honest, we all drive distracted. At some point in time in our lives, we're going to all get distracted, whether I'm worried about something that's going on at home or information that my head is still reeling about, or all the things that I need to get done wherever it is I'm going. Or my phone is blowing up with alerts and calls and text messages, and I'm scrambling trying to do both. But when I cut somebody off, I understand all the little teeny tiny things that have happened up to that moment. And I'm like asking for a Hail Mary forgiveness. And I think to myself, man, if you just knew what I was going through and what I'm navigating right now, you totally get why I just did what I did. I'm sorry, okay? It wasn't malicious. It wasn't intentional. But now think about the emotional experience that happens when it happens from the person doing it to you. And all of a sudden we turn into very judgy, rude, upset, angry, put out, disappointed, pissed off people. It's not that you might have been struggling with a hard morning yourself and that I too have cut somebody off, so I get it. welcome to the human family. It's how dare you? I can't believe you'd go there. Pay attention, asshole. Get off the road, a-hole. Like my whole demeanor changes. And that is exactly what we do with disappointment between myself and another human being. When I do it, it makes sense, and I'm asking for all pass and grace. And when you do it, it's malicious, intentional, and I would never in my wildest imagination and dreams do that.
We'll be right back.
You know that moment when your partner says something, your whole body goes hot, and 2 seconds later you say something you wish you hadn't? That moment has a name, and it's a missing skill. Here's what nobody taught us. Love isn't the problem in our relationships. Missing skills are. The ability to pause, to know what we actually feel, to say it in a way that someone can hear us. If you want to see which skills are already working for you and which ones are quietly tripping you up, take the Better Love Skills Quiz. It's free, takes less than 10 minutes, and at the end you get your Better Love Blueprint, a personalized look at where you're strong, where you're stuck, and exactly what to do next. Go to betterlovequiz.com. That's betterlovequiz.com. Your free blueprint is waiting. I think it's so interesting that we always, most of the time, if we're having a knee-jerk reaction, we don't do what you just said. We don't think this person is probably just having a hard day, or, oh, maybe they are having a health emergency and they're rushing to the hospital, or maybe they were just looking at their phone. I do that too sometimes. We automatically assume they're an asshole, that they don't know how to drive, that this is their first day on earth, that they're a freaking idiot.
So true. And so when we start to relate this to trust, it cannot be based. It will never work. It will always be a nemesis and create a tremendous amount of conflict and doubt when I think it's something that you're supposed to give to me to help me feel safe and secure, right? To help me get through this. It's something that you need to figure out how to give me. And everybody puts their arms in the air and goes, what do you want from me? I don't know what you want from me. I'm trying to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and I'm doing it. What do you want from me? Right? But it never is enough for the person who is in that place of, hey, I see them doing all the right things. They're doing all the things I've asked them to do. They're consistently doing it day after day after day, but I'm still not feeling any differently or better about it. And that's because this trust is not something I get from others. It's something that I give to others. Essentially, when I say I can't trust you anymore, what I'm really saying is I feel uncomfortable risking with you anymore. And what's interesting, until I figure out how to step in with a small measure of risk myself and give it, contribute it, we've come as far as we can go. There will not be an amount of doing that somebody can do for me that will give me a feeling of trust. It is earned by risking with you and you risk with me. And then we create moments of trust together.
So let's say that you're not the one that was the perpetrator of this significant risk. Oftentimes, let's just call it out. It's usually an affair. That's the big one.
You've lied, or you've been financially hoarding money, or you said you did this thing and then I found out you didn't.
So let's say that you're not that person, and people are going to say, well, wait a minute, man, I didn't do the dang thing. And you're asking me to step in and take that small risk again?
Yes. Now you start to understand why the acknowledgement of the event is important, because until you can even acknowledge and see it, there's no way that I can wrap my head around risking with you again. So that's why acknowledgement and cleaning up a mess is so important.
Prior to this re-stepping back in and risking small.
Well, that's the first step of somebody being able to say, look, even though my intention wasn't to hurt you, I see that this has really had impact on you, and I want to acknowledge that. I acknowledge that this, my choice, has had significant impact on you. Now, how do we move through it is going to be the next question, so that it doesn't further undermine our trust with each other. Very often how this commonly plays out is now both of us are egregiously punishing each other. And that creates further breaches of trust and an unwillingness to risk with each other again.
Do you think in all the years you've worked with people, and we hear this even in our communities, It seems like the person that has not created this particular mess, this significant breach of trust, they feel like there needs to be a certain amount of penance paid. We hear this often. I'm not belittling what you've been through and the significant emotional pain that it has cost you and how much it hurts. But at some point in time, we've got to realize if we're going to step back in and see what's possible and can we rebuild trust, right? We have to somehow start risking small again. But why do you think that's so hard for someone where they think, no, they just need to keep on, saying they're sorry?
It's what's been trained and taught in our society and in our culture, that there must be a punishment for mistakes made, and then you learn it, and they need to be painful so that you remember. But I think also we don't give credence to the impact that has overall in the relationship and where it entitles me to go as a person and what it allows me to do that then actually backfires and compromises myself and what it is I want. So let me put this into a real life scenario, okay? Because I have more than one client that's in this place. So I want you to come close. That's why you come to see me. We want to improve our intimacy. We want to improve our communication. We want to work through some difficult things that we are currently navigating, and we need some skills and tools in order to do a better job of that, because what we're doing is not working. And what is it that we've been commonly doing up to this point in time? Well, you hurt me, and then you take a small measure of accountability, and then I reach for you, and then you push me away. Because I don't feel ready to do that yet. And besides which, I don't think you've been punished enough. And so here you're coming to me. You want to hold my hand, sit close, make love to me, take me on a date. And I'm going, no, sorry, try again. Maybe if you do it, how many times? Nobody has the quota. How many times does it take? 3, 10, 20, 120? We're all sitting around. And then that starts to turn into a power and control thing, where I have a lot of power in you doing what it is I want you to do. And all I have to do is go, try again, sucker, do it some more. And then I'll decide if I'm going to play and I'm going to dance with you. And it turns into an unknowing, very manipulative power and control dynamic in the relationship that is breaking down the willingness to risk with each other mightily. And the more you do it, pretty soon what's going to happen is I'm going to get tired of trying again and trying again and trying again. And I'm going to start to feel manipulated. And you're going to not want to be able to relinquish the power and control that it gives you. I want you to keep doing it. I want you to keep thinking of me. I want you to keep showing up. I want you to keep begging and pleading to be around me in this dynamic. Okay. So what ends up happening is when you stop, I freak out because I've wanted you to come close. I just didn't take advantage of all the times that you were doing it because I was actually internally conflicted with how to step in, which takes us back to the question of the episode. Back to the question of the episode is, I've got some really uncomfortable feelings about this, and I'm sitting around waiting for you to make it right for me so that I can step in, except for that doesn't come. And then the more I do that and the more I play that out, the more I realize I can kind of have my cake and eat it too. I can get you to act like you want me and I don't feel that disappointment anymore, but I really don't want to risk with you. I want to keep myself safe. And so I'm just going to expect you to continue to now do all the work, make all the effort. And then at some point in time, I'm going to hope I feel better. And then maybe we'll go again. Maybe that's the way we rebuild trust. That is not the way we rebuild trust, but that is the common demonstration and idea that we have around it. So I have to risk too. If we want to create trust between us, then everybody's got to risk. What is the risk on the person who's coming to you, who says, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I wish I would have done that differently. I'm sorry that had impact on you. I acknowledge and I see that. My intention was this. That's really important because we want to understand how the person was in a position and they started to make the choices and decisions that they did. There's a lot to learn from that. And I need to also risk. So that's their risk. They're going to come, they're going to explore, they're going to look at their part. They're going to risk reaching out to you again in hopes that you'll reach back. That's their risk. And then you need to risk in return, stepping in so that we can create trust in us. It will not work if only one person risks. It turns into a power dynamic instead. And then we start playing this with each other. Well, you turned me down last time, so I'm going to turn you down this time. Well, okay, we're not going anywhere in that dynamic, are we? I'm not having sex with you because you didn't have sex with me the other day when I asked. And that's the conversation that we get lost in. I'm not taking you on a date. You've never taken me out on a date. You're never romantic. Well, am I? Who's going to risk? We better both risk. And that's how we create trust. So I don't trust you, remember, means I don't feel safe enough to risk with you right now. And in order for us to go in a different direction as a couple, to create an us, we have both got to risk. There's no way around it. It's earned. So that's the first thing we need to understand about risk. So you might be going, wow, okay, great. I don't feel like I should have to risk. I get it. I get it. But in order to have what it is you think you want, you're going to need to muster up some risk. And it doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to be bold. It just needs to be small and something that you're willing to do. And risk needs to happen on both sides. So what is that thing? What is that small measure? Because here's what happens. When I risk little and it goes well, I want to risk a little more because the most wonderful thing in the whole wide world is to be unencumbered and risk with you full on. And the only thing I need to show you as proof and demonstration of that is go back to the very beginning of a relationship where it was open kimono, come get me, baby. What could possibly go wrong? I wonder sometimes, I don't know any research or study on this, is just my thoughts, but I wonder sometimes if that's what actually creates the dopamine hit that we love on that magic carpet ride, is me unencumbered to risk with you. What the hell? Let's just go for it and see what happens. You know, there's a euphoric place of just allowing ourselves to do that. And in the thing that we're talking about in the podcast today, we're literally talking about the polar opposite experience of that. I am so protective and I am so closed chest in order to not be hurt again. I'm not willing to risk at all. And so I'm going to sit around and wait and hope that you can figure out how to work me out of this. But nobody can work you out of this.
I was just thinking about that question that Dad asked earlier about how most of the time people are thinking of large betrayals when we're talking about trust, which I would say that is true. So that leads me to my next question or thought that I wonder if people are having while they're listening to this episode is, once a cheater, always a cheater. Once a liar, always a liar. Once a betrayer, always a betrayer. That those three, or I guess it's really one belief, is so common in our culture. And the advice that people give to others who are dealing with a partner who has betrayed them, how do you kind of tune that out and not feel like you're being naive by trying to rebuild trust with this person while maybe everyone around you, like your friends and family, is telling you you're an idiot for trying to make this work with them because they cheated on you and they're just going to cheat on you again. So you could really feel like you want to make this work and you're listening and saying, okay, this makes sense. I do want to start risking small with my person, but I keep getting all of this noise from everybody around me that's telling me I should just cut my losses and run and get a divorce or break up with them or go no contact. How do you do this in that kind of environment?
This is a place where we have to step into the trust within ourselves. So think about that for a minute. We've been up to this point in time talking about the trust with others, but we also develop and build a trust within ourselves that I can trust my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own knowing. I feel comfortable making my own decisions or not, right? There's a trust that I have built or established, which is a risk as well. I risk speaking up. I risk following my thoughts. I risk behaving and trying something new or different, or I risk trying again, knowing that if I try again, it might produce a similar or same result, but I'm willing to try and hope that I can figure it out as I go. So this takes us directly back to the conversation of the importance of being able to establish a measure of trust inside of us. And I think because especially now at this period in history, we are very trust adverse, and that includes the trust within oneself. So we very much outsource our decisions, our choices. Somebody with some credentials must know far more about me and my life and what I'm supposed to do than I do. And we're very different in that way. I really want that to be said in this podcast right now because it is very converse to what commonly is out there as far as advice. It's so easy for somebody to say, oh, once a cheater, always a cheater. Oh, once a betrayer, always a betrayer. Let's just break that down for a minute. Easy to say, but I have no idea in saying those words, the nuances of your life and your relationship and what has brought us to this moment. Only you do and your partner do. And sometimes only if you're willing to look at it. But there's something that is creating these moments within us individually and collectively. It's not anybody's fault, but it needs to be understood. Number one. Number two, if there's a reason why I want to try again, can you imagine following somebody's advice and not giving myself a chance to try or look or explore again? I'm going to wonder for the rest of my life whether if I would have just given it one more chance because I wasn't really ready to let go and to move forward. But I forced myself to do that because so-and-so said I should, or a collective said I should. And so I guess that's what I'm going to do. And now I've got to work through not necessarily being on my own and letting this relationship go, but I'm also going to compound that by also betraying myself because I wasn't ready to do that. That didn't feel true for me. It didn't feel right to me, but somebody else must know better. So I've just, however it goes, layered on a breach of trust within myself. I dishonored myself, and we do that in all kinds of little ways and in all kinds of big ways, and wonder why we spiral in doubt and depression and anxiety and insecurity and fear and getting into another relationship. Are you shitting me right now? No, thank you. Absolutely no, thank you.
When you said once a cheater, always a cheater, and then the person who's giving you advice, whether that be a therapist or your mom or your best friend, that's easy for them to say because they don't have to do any of the other things that come with ending your marriage or breaking up with them. You have to find a new place to live. Then you have to arrange custody agreements. It's not like when you say once a cheater, always a cheater, and then you decide to end it, that you snap your fingers and everything is ended, you know? And sure, that may be the correct decision, but it's not, like Mom 2 said, if you're not ready to make that decision. That's why I think a lot of people don't even have any self-trust. I saw a TikTok video of a counselor talking about this kind of self-trust epidemic, and she said, we're so uncomfortable with forming an opinion about something without hearing other people's decisions that people have started wishing there was a comment section inside of Netflix because they don't know if it's okay to like a show. You know what I mean? Like, they're going and scrolling and looking. There are no comments here. I don't know what I'm supposed to think. We outsource our decision making so easily to other people, but we don't even realize it.
I would say that's the absolute total absence of agency right there.
Yeah.
You just
but we give it away so freely and we don't even realize it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And now we have this wonderful thing called AI that has become like our oracle. Please tell me all things about myself and how I should feel and think and what I should say and write it and put it in words. And we don't realize that in small ways is us not developing our own opinions and our own thoughts and acknowledging our own emotions. And so that's one side of it. But here's the second piece that I want to just suggest. I would love, and in fact, if anybody is listening to this podcast right now and you have struggled with cheating in your life, but you've overcome it, I would love, love, love to have a conversation with you, because what we're essentially saying as well, once a cheater, always a cheater, is broad spectrum. Once you fuck up as a human being, you're always a fuck up.
Yep.
Once you make a mistake or make an egregious choice, I hope that's not true, because I can tell you there's been a point in time in my life where I was a straight up stalker, but I don't feel like I'm a stalker anymore. Like, what are we doing? We are putting ourselves in these places of penance for the rest of our lives. And I'm not saying that those things didn't have true, real, difficult impact.
Repercussions. Yeah.
1,000. But please also in the same breath, don't tell me that we are not dynamic and unique, incredible human beings that if we choose to, we can knuckle down and do the hard thing, probably the hardest thing I'll ever do in my life, and change my behavior by facing off with myself. Tell me that's not possible.
And don't we want people to do that? Don't we want to create the pathway and the possibility that that's even available? But if we say once a cheater, always a cheater, we're cutting that off. we want people to change their minds. We want people to grow and learn. We want people to change their behavior. So in order to do that, there has to be a level of emotional safety there that provide the conditions that make that change possible.
If you study any significant person in any area of life, whether that be, say, an athlete or a business person, it doesn't matter. I would say pretty much all of them, you study their story, they've been through a lot that allowed them to keep turning and facing and deepening and learning from their situation and growing and becoming more of themselves. It's not just a upward straight graph.
Well,
It's
and
not how it works.
think about the general spectrum of just trauma.
Oh my God.
You know, we hold trauma like it's this dun, 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 you're so screwed. Sorry, your childhood was rough. If once a cheater, always a cheater is true, then I'm fucked. I'm fucked
There's
if I
nothing I can do.
There's nothing I can do because I'm going to constantly respond or react or not be able to overcome these perceivable triggers that are in my life. And I just absolutely refuse to accept that. That tells me that if I struggle with addiction, I can't overcome it. Bullshit. I know lots of people who have done that. It's been hard, rigorous. It's a lifetime commitment, but I can do it. Yes, I've seen people overcome sex addictions, which is sometimes what's driving cheating. But sometimes cheating is driven by a whole host of other things that we don't talk about. I know felons who have come back into the world after doing some egregious things and have made good lives and done good things for the world in which they live. And that motivation came from the very pain and impact that they caused. That's what drives them to turn over another leaf and go in a different direction. Not because it was easy, and most of the time, not because they even had people believing in them. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Once an addict, always an addict. Yeah, as though, look at ourselves, those of us who are saying those kinds of things. Are you saying that you don't struggle with some things you know you need to change, but you can't figure out how to do it? And you keep doing the same old bullshit day after day?
I always like what we say with great love and respect. None of us is without a rap sheet.
And none of us get a hall pass. And all of us have things that we wrestle with that we really struggle with.
It takes a lot of courage to turn and share those. But
so let's just go back to the conversation about on the roadway. And I cut you off and then you cut me off, and the difference in our experiences there for myself. And that is exactly what's happening in our relationships when somebody, blows our life up, blows it sky high. I probably have done very similar things, maybe not to that egregious level, but things that have compromised and impacted our relationship too. How are we going to work through it? I'm going to have to risk, and so are you. And what does that look like? Well, again, step one, it's got to be acknowledged and looked at. Number two, we have to find simple agreements that we can risk with and try again and go forward. And it cannot come from a place of punishment, because if it does, then I'm becoming a byproduct of a person who has to facilitate the punishment, which is going to create an environment I don't feel good about. So that's not going to work. And punishing you isn't going to help you feel safe and comfortable risking with me again too. So we are going to fail at creating a safe, trusted place to regrow and re-navigate a different direction in our relationship. The next thing I want to say about this is in the practice of risking with each other, that's where trust is going to grow patiently over time. And here's the good news. When we have a little success, it fuels us for the next one. As I said in the beginning, 1 million micro risks over and over and over again that will never stop, best I can tell. We risk again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And that's how we overcome big breaches and impact, one little teeny tiny micro choice at a time. And that's going to be required. If I punish you, you're going to stop trying and you're going to poop out risking with me. And I'm going to sit and wonder why it is I don't feel better because of all the things that you're doing to try and make it better, because I'm not doing my part in risking with you too. So I'm not going to feel like I can still trust you. And we're not going to be able to navigate through this. What we tend to focus on in the hurt and the disappointment, because it does suck, it hurts. Disappointment is a real thing, and I'm not trying to minimize it at all, but pain is also not a bad thing. Pain is basically saying, I need your attention right now, and we need to do everything we can to go in a different direction. And instead of thinking about where we want to go in that different direction, we keep replaying the hurt, which creates more hurt and more fear, which is going to prevent us from creating those things that will help us move forward. It can't be, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, you better never do that again. If you ever do that again, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this to you. I'm trying to motivate you through guilt and fear, and that has a very short shelf life. What I need to do instead is, I'm willing to do this. Are you? Okay, let's do it. That really went well. What else do we want to do? Okay, can we try this? Yeah, I can try this. Let's go. Oh, wow, look at us. It feels so much better. We're doing it. Okay, now I'm ready to try this with you and this with you. What about you? You in? Yeah, I'll do that. I'll try that. We are actually going in a better direction. I'm so proud of us. I want to celebrate us. But we have to be talking about the thing we want to do and the direction that we want to go, and not ruminate on the thing that's happening. The only benefit from the rumination on it in the beginning is to understand how we got here, and to understand why these choices were made, and what is a thing that each of us can do better as we go forward in a different direction. That's the gift of it. And that's why we spend time talking about it, not to punish and beat each other up, but to gain that understanding of you, of me, of us. And now, what do we want to try? It's going to give me the recipe and the format to go in a different direction. We might have a little bit of like tweaking around to do there. It's kind of like the curler story that I told on social today during one of our lives. Like, there are so many little teeny tiny nuances about doing something. There's the understanding of it, and then there's the doing of it. And then out of that comes all of these little tweaks that we realize, and adjustments as we understand more about ourselves and each other, that we need to make as we go, so that we can know what to risk in the direction that we want to go in better this time. We're constantly tweaking that. And it will forever and always be, because just about the time we think I've got you and I figured out, I change, you change, we change, our dynamics change, our circumstances change. And so we're back to the drawing board of a million micro risks again. And that's what strengthens a relationship over time. The risk, you're going to earn it. But I'll tell you what, it's worth it. I wouldn't want to be without it. And I wouldn't want you to be without it too.
So do you think the question that is really the genesis for this whole episode, and I think it's probably similar for a lot of people, when there's been a breach and then that person really starts stepping in, they grow, they become a better version. It's because usually the risk they're considering is too large right out of the gate. You say, was that be kind of the genesis of the challenge?
100%. Well, I want you to never bring this up again. That's a classic. I want you to never bring this up again. Well, that's not going to be possible. And I'll go, okay, I swear. Now I'm just acting it out, because I can't bring it up anymore. I can't talk about it. So I'm just going to act it out and punish you and push you away and do some of those things. So we very often try and always give me sex when I demand it then. Well, it's these huge canyon leaps that we're trying to navigate. And so we feel like epic failures. Or we sit around and wait for a guarantee, some kind of a sign that says I'm safe now. And unfortunately, really, the only guarantee that we have, truly, if we develop it within ourselves, is knowing that if I risk, however this goes, I'll be able to figure it out. I believe in my ability to be okay however this goes. That gives me the ability to risk. And that I just said is a version of self-trust. I believe in me.
I think when we are waiting for the perfect conditions to be able to trust them again, we don't think about the fact that while you're kind of in that limbo space, your threads of connection between the two of you are just atrophying, because you're not doing anything to come close to each other. So you think all you're doing is waiting, but really your relationship is dying and you're not realizing it. So the longer you wait to begin risking again, the worse it's going to be when you finally decide to, because there's less and less of a relationship to rebuild. We think it's not costing anything, but really it is.
Yeah, 100%. The question under the question then, Brooke, to your point, is not, is it safe to trust them? But do I trust myself to see clearly and to speak up if things start to go in the direction that makes me feel uncomfortable again? That's the question under the question. That's a better question to contemplate for myself. I can make that happen. I can navigate that.
Yeah,
but if
because you actually have an answer to it.
Exactly. And I'm not pinning my sense of well-being on them and what they may or may not do, because there's some sense in me that knows I don't have any control over that. And you don't. And I'm waiting for them to do enough, demonstrate enough, pay enough of a penance in order for me to feel safe. But I hope that in that question, you understand I'm never going to feel safe there. The question needs to be, how do I trust myself to understand and see this more clearly and to speak up for myself and to be able to ask for what it is I need when I start to feel like this goes in a direction that I don't want to go again? How do we navigate that? Now there's an answer. Now I can say, I can't promise this, but I can try this. I can give this. I can risk this. Let's see how it goes. And then maybe I'll be able to open up a little and everybody starts to feel like, oh, wow, okay, we're doing this. We can actually do this. Not perfectly. We're going to tweak it. It's going to be a little messy, but that's how we build that trust. And then to your point, if we don't go this direction, the relationship that we have is atrophying. Right? As everybody shuts down and gets more protective and defensive, blames each other, points fingers, there's no what I call love insurance, a safe place inside of ourselves that we can come home to so that however the risk goes, I know I'm going to be okay.
I'm the local relationship expert in Virginia. People come to me and ask me questions. And I always tell my friends that you can't figure it out unless you get in it. Like, you're not going to be able to figure any of these issues out unless you're actually trying it out with your partner. You can't trust them again unless you try trusting them again. And what you just said is you have to know that no matter what happens, you're going to use your skills to speak up or decide that you can't do this anymore, or say, hey, you're doing this and it really hurts my feelings and can we try this instead? You have all those things at your disposal all the time. And so that's how you keep it safe for yourself. We think that the way it's going to be safe is knowing that nothing bad is going to happen.
You're going to be skilled enough and have the ability to implement it for really whatever comes your way. That's the guarantee. Because to say otherwise, we would be totally out of integrity to say, once you do this, check the box. And that's the fairy tale that we have all bought into that is just total BS. If Stacy and I didn't have a lot of skills, we wouldn't be together because we have lots of things happening all the time. Okay. But that's just life. And that's a math problem with us because the amount of humans we have in our circle. Come on. So the more moving parts, the more skill required.
Well, and don't forget that relationships are a co-creation. We forget that little piece too, like somebody owes us something or we're entitled to something because we're now married or we're living together, or we have a child or we share finances. We are a co-creation. And we are going to risk to create. And creation, just think about any creation, starting a business, creating a budget, redesigning a house, remodeling. It creates risk. You don't know how it's going to go. You got a pretty good idea. You got a plan, but until you jump in and do the thing that you so elegantly said, Brooke, until you do the thing, nothing happens. And we're going to have to believe in our ability to figure it out as we go. Right? If a mess happens or a problem shows up, which we know it will, we believe in our ability to figure it out. We have the ability to resource from within ourselves and resource from our support system to navigate through it.
I would say, even if you think that the solution is unreachable or you can't even imagine a solution or you don't know how you're going to get through it, the only way to do it is to start. And then oftentimes you'll figure out a solution that you never even thought was there because you started doing it. Like Mom too always says, you don't figure it out before you start, you figure it out as you go along. And I think that couldn't be more true in this situation, because if you try to figure out all these solutions, they might not even feel good when you actually try to do them. So it's much easier to just start, risk small, and then I think the solutions present themselves to you because you're on the journey.
It's very philosophically and principally true. Like, how many times have we sat around and thought ourselves through a solution and then voila, it arrived at our doorstep? I've never had that happen. And if somebody else out there has, please let me know. I want the email address, the contact info. I want the whole thing. I want to be able to sit and find a solution in my mind. I want to think it up, and then I want to deliver to my door. That's it.
We don't share our address often, but we will for that one.
Absolutely. So it doesn't
special
happen.
delivery, that bad boy.
It doesn't happen. We have to implement and do the thing. And we may not know even what the solution is, but I'm going to begin where I know to begin. And this takes me back to a beautiful quote a long time ago. It's not mine. And unfortunately, I can't remember the person who drew the graphic. I wish I could. But picture this. You've got an artist standing at the easel and the canvas is completely blank. And the caption is, where should I begin? Begin anywhere. Just begin. And that picture, that solution, that journey will emerge as you start putting paint on the canvas. Begin anywhere. Just begin. And that is the best way to say, you want to rebuild trust? Then begin. Find a place where you feel safe enough to risk again. And I hear some people in my mind saying, well, what if they won't risk with me? Well, then how can I help you feel safe enough to risk with me? What do you need? I'm willing to risk. What do you need to risk with me? And if they still won't do that, then unfortunately, that's information that's important for us to take a good hard look at as well, because I can't co-create by myself. I can't do all the risking for the two of us. I can only risk for myself. Okay. I just felt like that needed to be said.
If we haven't answered your question about trust, please send it to us. You can send it on social media. You can send us an email at love@stacybartley.com. You can text us in our podcast show notes, all of those ways. Because next week, we're going to do a podcast episode answering all your questions about trust.
So basically, you don't have to trust them yet. You just have to be willing to risk and to know that you will be okay however it goes, because I believe in my ability to be okay. And so start with one teeny, tiny, small risk and ask them to risk with you too. And if they're saying, hey, what can I do to make this better for you? Then that is their risk. They're risking being rejected, but they care enough about you to risk. So return the favor and you'll start to notice that we are going in a better direction overall. And yes, here's the thing. Everything we talked about today, it takes practice. And I'll just be honest with you, it's really hard to do it on your own because there's little nuances to everything that we've talked about today. And we have these little things called triggers and emotions that tend to follow us around. And as I step into new skills and practicing new skills, my fear and my doubt starts showing up. Is this going to work? Is this going to work for me? What if this happens? What if we do that? Is that going to work? Those are a great example of why this is really hard to do on your own, especially when it's 2 a.m. and you're lying awake rehearsing your hurt and disappointment over and over and over again and navigating your internal conflict, trying to figure out whether it's safe enough to trust again. Listen, we've all been there, so no judgment. But if today's conversation has stirred something in you, don't try to carry it by yourself. Come practice with us. Come learn with us. Have some people that you can kind of pound around with, have conversations with, support you. That's exactly why we've created the Trust Sprint, because trust isn't rebuilt by listening to one podcast episode. It's rebuilt one small risk at a time. It's the doing. It's the beginning. And you're going to be able to do that with support and encouragement and a safe place to practice. The sprint is 2 weeks of live coaching. It's guided practice and real conversations designed to help you stop spinning in your head and start doing the rebuilding is an actual experience of trust, one small step at a time. So whether you're navigating betrayal, space, or simply trying to understand how to trust again after being hurt, we'd love to have you with us. And you can find all the juicy details about the sprint in the episode description. I absolutely can't wait to see you there. So a little follow the fun today. Things I hoped you'd notice without me asking.
Well, that's good.
That's what I titled it, right? We all have those, don't we? Things I hoped you'd notice without me having to say
Have you
anything.
noticed my new hairdo?
Yes. Have you noticed mine?
Mm-hmm. Got the special curlers we were talking about in the live.
This actually gently exposes our desires for others to actually be mind readers. And we'd all love that, wouldn't we?
Apparently so.
Mm-hmm. So here's what I need to ask you. What's something you secretly hope someone would just magically know right now? that you really didn't have to bring up or say anything about? I mean,
give me some examples.
Yeah, like I'm overwhelmed right now. I just wish you knew that so that you'd offer to make dinner. Or I really need some help or a hug right now because I'm kind of floundering in a hot mess, but I wish that you'd just give it to me and I didn't have to like come over and ask. Or that, trash can's full. Could you just take it out? Why do I notice that and you never do? And we have these things that seem so obvious to us, but are not obvious to the people around us. We expect people to know how we think and how we feel without sharing it. And boy, wouldn't that be nice. Again, if you have a source of how to make that happen, you can also get my address if you got one of them. I want one of those delivered to my door as well. So sit with that for a minute, because it really does start to highlight all the things you wish people just knew, but they're not going to know unless you say something. Unless you ask, unless you inquire.
Like you always say, they don't have our special someone or those around us. They don't have the intel. You have the intel. So I know that sounds really simple, but it's amazing. We don't think that we can ask and or share. Well, and then you say, well, what are they expecting to be a mind reader? Well, yeah, you are expecting people to be a mind readers if you don't get good at this. And I know it feels clunky, because we're the world doesn't revolve around you. Well, none of it's not revolving. We're simply revealing what it is that's important to us so people can know. That's as simple as that.
Yeah. Our song today actually comes from one of our Better Love Club members, Matthew.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Cool.
Matthew, I promised you that I was going to give you credit for this one. This is a song that Matthew shared with the community that helped him navigate through a very difficult place when he was trying to decide where to trust and how to go again and how to keep carrying on, right? One foot in front of the other. And so he actually shared with us a song by a group, Fun.
The group's Fun?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And the name of the song is Carry On. And he personally said, my personal favorite line that I resonate with is the line about feeling my feet on the ground because at least these feet are mine. Mm. And I think that's kind of like the whole point of our conversation today is it begins with self-trust, because if I don't have self-trust and believe in my ability to be okay, regardless of how this goes, it's going to prevent me from being able to risk. My sense of well-being and my safety is placed in the hands of someone else and not in the hands of me. And so the song is incredible for that. And again, thank you, Matthew. It's so great to have you a part of our community. You can listen to this song along with every song we have curated for you from each episode of Love Shack Live by searching up Love Shack Live playlist on Spotify. So I think that's a wrap. Deep conversation on trust today. Mm-hmm. It's a big topic, right? You just need trust and communication, right? Well, yes. And there's a little more to it. So I hope again that you'll consider joining our sprint. It's affordable. It's doable. Again, you can catch all the juicy details about the sprint and joining us on July 13th in the show notes. We hope that you'll come and join us. Thank you so much for being here inside the Love Shack with us today. And if this conversation moved you or helped you feel a little more seen or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing it with somebody that you care about. And if it's helped you personally, please also consider leaving us a review. We love those too. Remember, love isn't enough, but skills are. I encourage you to learn them and practice them and then live them. Bye-bye for now.
All right, it's time to leave the Love Shack. But before we part ways, we want you to know our door is always open and we'll leave the porch light on, ready to welcome you back whenever you need a dose of relationship wisdom. For more resources and tools, visit us at loveshacklive.com to dive deeper into the topics we've explored and find additional support for your relationship journey. Stay connected by subscribing to our podcast. Thank you for being part of our Love Shack Live community.